What do you do if you're Israel and you're being accused of genocide at the International Court of Justice, being accused of genocide by some of your own country's leading Holocaust historians like Professor Amos Goldberg, being accused of genocide by more than half of Democratic voters in the United States? What do you do? Why, you engage in genocide denial, of course. You say the numbers aren't real, it's all Hamas propaganda, and you insist that you didn't really kill that many Palestinians. Now, per the health ministry in Gaza, which as the media never fails to remind us, is controlled by Hamas, we have all been reporting that over 30,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza, including more than 14,000 children. 2/3 of the victims, women and children. But wait! Last week, the Jerusalem Post, an Israeli newspaper, which earlier in the war claimed a dead Palestinian baby was really a doll and that the Palestinians were faking it, the Jerusalem Post published this piece headlined, "UN seemingly halves estimate of Gazan women, children killed." They pointed to this infographic from the UN for Gaza casualties up to May the 6th, compared to this UN infographic for Gaza casualties up to May the 8th. And so the Israeli PR machine jumped into action. Israel's foreign minister called it the miraculous resurrection of the dead in Gaza and claimed that the UN had reduced its estimate of women and children killed in Gaza by 50%. The Israel War Room account on Twitter posted this graphic. The UN quietly admitted Hamas's casualty numbers are fake. All over social media, pro-Israel accounts trumpeted this shocking new revelation. The numbers aren't that high. Hamas lied. The UN was duped. Of course, none of that is true. The UN did not say that Hamas's numbers are fake. They didn't cut the death toll in half. Nothing, in fact, really changed. Look at those infographics again. Between the 6th of May and the 8th of May, the death toll didn't go down. It went up from 34,735 to 34,844. But hey, what's 109 dead Palestinians? Not even worth noticing, right? The only thing that changed in those 2 days is that on May the 6th, the UN provided a number for reported fatalities, over 34,000. And on May the 8th, it provided a number for reported fatalities, again, over 34,000, but also included a new subset of 24,686 identified fatalities. That's it. What they're making a song and dance about, what they're pretending is some smoking gun evidence of a Hamas cover-up, is literally just the difference between fully identified bodies and unidentified or partially identified bodies. That's it. And among the identified victims, by the way, a clear majority, 60% of them, are still women, children, and the elderly. Is that something to brag about? Killing women, children, and the elderly? If it was only 24,000 dead, not over 34,000 dead. In fact, it's now actually over 35,000 dead. But if it was 24,000 dead, is that somehow much better, less brutal, more moral? And by the way, both UN infographics make clear that neither the 24,000 nor 34,000 numbers even include the more than 10,000 bodies still missing or stuck under the rubble. Oh, and just one more thing specifically on reported dead versus identified dead. Be careful where you go with this line of argument, because I would remind you, Yad Vashem, which is Israel's official memorial to the Holocaust, honoring, remembering the 6 million Jewish people who were brutally killed in the Holocaust, lists 4.8 million names of Jewish victims of the Nazis. So should we all become Holocaust deniers and say 6 million people didn't die in the Holocaust because there are only 4.8 million names listed at Yad Vashem? No, of course we shouldn't say that. That would be grotesquely ignorant and offensive. That would be genocide denial, just as this is in Gaza. So that's number one. The UN didn't halve the number of dead women and children in Gaza. That's just a lie that went viral. Number two, it's always worth repeating that the Hamas Health Ministry numbers, aren't actually controversial or unreliable. They're trusted by the people who matter. Don't take my word for it. Human Rights Watch has said, quote, everyone uses the figures from the Gaza Health Ministry because those are generally proven to be reliable. One of the world's leading medical journals, The Lancet, says there is no evidence of inflated mortality reporting from the Gaza Ministry of Health. The US State Department has repeatedly cited health ministry figures internally with hardly any caveats. And here's the best one of all. Israeli intelligence has made the health ministry's data their main source of information, with one official source telling Israeli journalist Yuval Abraham, quote, I trust the health ministry in Gaza more than the IDF for these statistics. Not my words, and Israeli intelligence officials. And finally, number three, let me say this. There has always been one central goal to all this genocide denial and propaganda around lower death tolls: to dehumanize the Palestinians who have been killed. to dehumanize them. That's the goal. And if you have any doubt about that, let me leave you with this headline from the Rupert Murdoch-owned New York Post last week, the headline to a piece co-authored by one of the most influential liberal defenders of Israel in the United States, Professor Alan Dershowitz. Quote, "Just how many of Gaza's civilians are entirely innocent?" Can you imagine a headline in any Western newspaper which said, after the massacres on October the 7th, just how many of Israel's civilians are entirely innocent? Of course you can't. It would rightly never happen. But hey, Israelis are human beings. Palestinians apparently are not.